Hey guys, welcome back to A Plot of Confusion. I am your host, Derek, and we have a deep dive today. I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little bit worried about doing this podcast because of the subject matter that we're going to be going into, because we're going to be going into a rabbit hole. And the question is Israel, the country and its government, is Israel the same as the promise that um, we are told as Christians? I'm a Christian, and we're told a lot of times in our churches and everything that, hey, to receive a blessing, you have to be in line with Israel. And I have been doing a deep dive on this and looking into this and going, I don't, I don't think I feel that way anymore, especially after the events that took place with Charlie Kirk. And I had already been questioning the narrative of, if you speak against Israel, you're an anti-Zionist. And seeing in America right now where people are being silenced for their opinions, something I know that my family that fought for the Constitution, my founding fathers that were a part of that early on in the creation of this wonderful nation. My ancestry goes all the way back. It's been tracked, it's been documented. And I know for a fact that when freedom of speech was for everyone, and it didn't matter if you were whatever your viewpoint was, you had the right to say it. Um, and now all of a sudden, and I want to say there are really some hateful things that's being said. Um, but one thing I actually had a disagreement with a couple of friends. They were like, anyone that says anything bad about, Charlie Kirk, they need to lose their job, lose everything. And I was like, I don't feel that way. And they're like, "Well, you're a conservative, you're a Christian, you like the man, right?" I said, I loved him. I love hearing his debates. I loved him all the way. But I know that the great thing about freedom of speech and being able to have it is that you can have freedom of speech because words can't hurt you physically. If you have freedom of speech, you can say whatever you want. Your emotion, by being emotionally driven, well, I'm sorry, but that person still needs to have the right under the Constitution to be able to say what they want to say. And that's why I'm finding it alarming that we're having people let go, people I do not agree with at all, that I am completely the opposite of, but I still feel they need to have the right to have their speech. And that led me down this rabbit hole and having my debate with my friends of going, huh, are we being controlled by not only this narrative, but it now makes me go, I cannot give Israel my blind support because they believe that you shouldn't be able to say anything against a Jewish person. You do that, you get labeled as a anti-Zionist. And I believe that Israel deserves to be a nation. I believe that Israel deserves to protect itself. I believe that Israel deserves to coexist with the people and nations that are around it. I do not agree with the government right now and its policies of what it has been doing in Gaza. I do not agree with that, which then brought the question of, is this the same Israel as the Israel of the Bible? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, one thing that I have a lot of times that people bring to my attention, and I am very happy and blessed that I have been able to learn some Hebrew and a little bit of Greek. And I love the fact that I had the privilege of going and being able to see the Dead Sea Scrolls with my own two eyes. Um, and so the Bible verse a lot of times that is used, and I feel like using the Living Translation. I use the King James a lot, and I know a lot of people are, King James only. But I'm a person that believes that yes, King James should be in your majority, what you use in America. But I think that you should also have a translation that's more of a modern English, and that's why I'm using the Living Bible. So we're going to take a look at when God is calling Abraham. The Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, go into the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous. And you will be a blessing to others. And it actually means a blessing to other nations. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families of the earth, all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you. Now, this is a blessing been given to Abraham. This is the one blessing that they use and say, see, you got to bless Israel to get a blessing. If you don't, you're going to be a curse. But this is one of the scriptures that's the most taken out of context and used to fuel this ideology of we have to bless Israel and follow Israel and everything. But this is a blessing that Yahweh is giving to Abraham. Before he's even called Abraham, the nation Israel has not even been created yet. The word Israel does not come into when it comes to later on uh, when Jacob his name is changed to Israel. So right off the bat, Israel as a nation doesn't even exist right now. So this blessing can't be for the nation Israel. It's one of the most taken out of context Bible scriptures is out there that fuels this narrative of giving our undivided loyalty to the nation Israel. This is a blessing that's giving to Abram before he becomes Abraham. This is even before the Abrahamic covenant between Yahweh. This is where God is letting him know, I'm calling you out of the Mesopotamian Canaanite area. I'm calling you out of there, and I'm going to have you, Sarah, and your nephew Lot. Y'all are going to be leaving the nation, but I want you to understand, Abram, that on your journey, my purpose is to create a nation that will bless other nations. So they flip it. They kind of like invert it. They make it where it's like, oh, all the nations need to follow Israel and bless Israel to get a blessing. Instead of recognizing saying that following Abraham, the ones that are nice to him, he is going to bless them. So technically, if you wanted to really throw somebody a wrench into their stuff, and saying, "Wait a second, Israel should be blessing the other nations." In all honesty, it says, "I will bless those that bless you, curse those who treat you with contempt. All families of the earth, all nations of the earth will be blessed through you." So technically, you could say that Israel should be the one that's giving out the blessings, not the other way around. But I just want to stay in context that this is God, Yahweh, talking to Abraham as he's going on his journey. So you can't sit here and take a soundbite out of the whole scriptures and take a small little soundbite and base your ideology and your doctrine on it. You got to take it in its context of everything that's being said here. And we're clearly being told right here that God is saying to Abraham. So, right there, right off the bat, you're now seeing there is some things that's problematic about saying that, taking this verse and justifying everything that Israel does, justifying it and saying, hey, you're going to be blessed. Doesn't matter what Israel, the nation, does, you'll be blessed. And so this now brings up where I was doing my study, and we're going to take a look at this. So right here, this images that you're seeing is the Israeli flag. On the Israeli flag, it has the white, the blue, and then it has a star in the middle. Now, the colors of the flag are biblical. It goes with what the tallit is supposed to be on your garments, and I'll share that with you. And so the coloring, you're told in the gospel that you're supposed to take and have the tallit, them hang off your garments, off the hem of your garments. And so that's where these colors, if you're able to watch this and not just listen to it, you'll see the colors of the white and the blue. This is to let you know. And through the knots of it, it lets you have um, the name Yohevah, Yahweh. And so that's where the colors come from. Now, one thing that stands out more to me than ever is the fact that you have the star that sits in the middle. And you're told that this is the Star of David. And as you're told that this is the Star of David, no one really questions, is that biblical? Does that match up to Bible, to the scriptures, to the word of God? Does it match up to the Torah? Does it match up to, in our English Bible, six books of the Bible? And as I was doing my research and study, nowhere is there a such thing as the Star of David. It doesn't exist as a star that represented the house of David. There's not even the star of David. There's nothing that says, hey, here is the Star of David, and this is how you will identify uh, the David's lineage. Nowhere. It's not even it does have ties to a part of Israel, but it is not the Star of David. And this is one of the things that I believe that the Jews hated Jesus Christ, is because he was exposing this ancient idol worshiping cult that had woven its coils around the the religious establishment, the religion of Israel. And one thing that gives us an idea is the comes in Acts chapter 7. We're going to look at verse 36. I'm going to read it to you from the New Living. You have in context right now Stephen, which is a disciple of Jesus Christ, is talking to the religious leaders of Israel. That they are the Sanhedrin. He's talking to the Sadducees and the Pharisees. And this is where you do find a star that they identify with. And this is the reason why I believe that he was stoned and killed. He says, Moses himself told the people of Israel, Go, God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your own people. Moses was with our ancestors, the assembly of God's people in the wilderness, when the angel spoke unto him on Mount Sinai. And there Moses received life-giving words, the Torah, the commandments, the Ten Commandments, passed on to us. But our ancestors refused to listen to Moses. They rejected him and wanted to return to Egypt. My wife and I have been reading Exodus, and we were like, wow, how often did you have a group of people, and it was always like a group of people that would rise up and speak out against Moses and say, we're from Egypt. And that's what Stephen is referring to. But our ancestors refused to listen and rejected him and wanted to return to Egypt. They told Aaron, make us gods, idols, who can lead us, for we don't know what has become of this Moses who brought us out of Egypt. So make us an idol shaped like a calf. Now, what's interesting is that this star that you're seeing here does have ties to this idolatry, ties to this God. Shape it like a cow. And what people don't realize is that Moloch is a a bull, a image of a cow. Um, so there you have this calf being formed. That's why they wanted a calf to be formed, is it has ties to Moloch. And they sacrificed to it, celebrated over these things they had made, and God turned away from them, abandoned them to serve the stars of heaven as their gods. In the book of the prophets, it is written, was it to me you were bringing sacrifice offerings during the 40 years in the wilderness of Israel? No. You carried your pagan gods, the shrine of Moloch, the star of your god, Rephan, and the images you made, and worshiped them. So I sent you into exile as far away as to Babylon. Now, one thing I'm going to do in a future podcast is talk about um, the the oral Torah, or um, the talking to, and we're going to talk about that in a future podcast. But right here is in the New Testament, we are given this understanding who the star belongs to, what God it belongs to, and ones that follow this idolatry of the star, which is Rephan. Now, what we have here is talking about the false god worshiping of ancient Israelites. Now, is there a star that's mentioned in the Old Testament? And the answer is yes. It actually comes out of the book of Amos of the Old Testament, one of the prophets, and it comes out of chapter 5, and it goes into let you know who this is. It chapter 5, verse 25. It says, was it to me you were bringing sacrifices and offering during the 40 years in the wilderness of Israel? So right here you're seeing that Stephen, the book of Acts, was quoting Amos here. It says, no, you served your pagan gods. Now, in the King James, it will say, No, you carried your pagan gods, the shrine of Moloch, your star of the old god, Rephan, the image you made for yourselves. So I will send you into exile to the land of Damascus. But I like that we get a little bit more detail in the Living Bible. It says, no, you served your pagan gods, Sakuth, your god, your king god, and K1, your star god, the images you made for yourself. So I sent you into exile to a land east of Damascus. And when you know that Damascus, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, all in that area, you're now understanding where this ideology and this worship that the Israelites worshiping idols. The Star of Rapha, also known as Rephan or Rephan, is mentioned in the Old Testament and the New Testament, especially in Acts 7:43, where it refers to a false god worship by ancient Israelites. Stephen, during his sermon, condemned idolatry, the golden calf, and the star of Rephan, which is believed to be linked to the star Saturn. Now, anyone that knows occult knowledge and stuff that even Aleister Crowley and that type of witchcraft, you understand that they worshiping Saturn, they were worshiping Satan. The term is derived from the Hebrew word kayun and is associated with worship of the celestial deities in the ancient Near Eastern culture. The star of Rephan is often viewed as a symbol of pagan worship, contrasting the worship of Yahweh. So, right here, going in here and looking at this and seeing what is going on, you start to realize, wait a second, is that where the Star of David comes from? And the answer is alarming yes. So the question then goes back to what I asked earlier. Is Israel the same Israel of the Bible? And if you want us to go by and say yes, it's the same Israel that worshiped the pagan god Moloch, and they sacrificed their children to Moloch, because the Bible says, "Don't even let your children pass through the fire of Moloch." And this is something that they did, um, that the Israelites did. And so with this, you're starting to see that, hey, maybe we've been given this false bill of sale saying, but we're supposed to follow Israel no matter what, because to do so, you get a blessing. And I'm going to just throw it out there. Since we have been so inundated with Israel, and I highly recommend you look into what happened to the United States in 1967 with the USS Liberty and see what Israel did to our servicemen during their 6-day war. You will immediately recognize that those people definitely did not receive a blessing, and that after that we have become so inundated with Israel that can you really say that America has been blessed for being with Israel? I mean, I would have to beg the different and say, no, I think that we have not received the blessing. I think there's been this great falling away in America after we did this. See, Jesus Christ, you have to understand, Jesus was killed by the Jews. I know that's a shocker to people, but if you're a Christian, it wasn't just the religious establishment that crucified and killed Jesus. It was these people and their pagan idolatry that they had in the temple. It's the reason why Jesus said, "You have made my father's house a den of thieves." So you have to understand that Jesus is the only way to the Father. You're not going to receive your blessing through Israel. You receive your blessing through Jesus Christ. Now, I know this is going to be a shocker, but we have to go, if you're a Christian, and this is why I feel like this is so important to understand, is that our salvation doesn't come through Israel, it comes through the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Now, in the book of John, Jesus is going to definitely let us know something that goes dealing with the people uh, of the Jewish people of his time, which I believe again had ties to this star. And Jesus is going to expose them. And in chapter 8, verse 31, as you're seeing right here, Jesus said to the people who believe in him, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." That's why I feel it's so important for us to understand, is Israel the same Israel of the Bible, the ones that follow Yahweh, the ones that Moses said there will be a prophet and who you were supposed to obey, which is Jesus Christ. And the truth will set you free. But we are descendants of Abraham, they said. You have never been slaves to anyone. We have never been slaves to anyone. Now, if they were the people of the Bible or the children of God, they would have known that they were slaves at one time. They were slaves to the Egyptians. But we are the descendants of Abraham, they said. We have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean? You will be set free. Now, Jesus is referring to the truth will set them free, not realizing that, they're saying, "What do you mean?" Jesus replied, "I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins is a slave of sin. A slave is not permitted a member of the family, but a son is a part of the family forever. So if the son sets you free, you are truly free." Yes, I recognize that you are descendants of Abraham, and yet some of you are trying to kill me because there is no room in your hearts for my message. I am telling you what I saw when I was with my father, but you are following the advice of your father. Then they say, "Our father is Abraham," they declared. "No," Jesus replied, "for if you were really the children of Abraham, you would follow his example. Instead, you're trying to kill me because I told you the truth, which I heard from the Father. Abraham never did such a thing. No, you are imitating your real father." They replied, "We are illegitimate children. God himself is our true father." And see, that's what you got to understand, guys. When they say we worship God, we follow God, that is a title. It's not, you got to know what God they're serving. And that's how in America we've been deceived through politicians, through other things. Is that everybody says, "Hey, I love God," but what God do you love? What God do you serve? Jesus told them, "If you were your father, you would, if God were your father, sorry, I got sidetracked. If God were your father, you would love me because I have come to you from God. I am not here on my own, but he sent me. Why can't you understand what I am saying? It's because you can't even hear me. You are the children of your father. And here is the kicker. He is talking to a religious establishment, this religious group, these religious people that had hijacked the one true God's king, Yahweh's children. They hijacked them. And Jesus calls them out. He says, you're not of Abraham. And Yahweh is not your God. He's not your father. Your father is the devil. And you love to do the evil things he does. He was a murderer from the beginning. He has always hated the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, it is constant with his character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. So when I tell the truth, you just naturally don't believe me. Which of you can truly accuse me of sin? And since I am telling you the truth, why don't you believe me? Anyone who belongs to God Yahweh listens gladly to the words of God. You don't listen because you don't belong to Yahweh. And the people retorted, you Samaritan devil, don't you don't we say all along that you were possessed by demons? No, Jesus said, I have no demon in me, for I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. And though I have no wish to glorify myself, God, Yahweh, is going to glorify me. He is the true judge. I tell the truth, and anyone who obeys my teaching will never die. So Jesus is saying right there who their father is. And this is the same ones that's in that idolatry and in that with this star that we're seeing right here. But one thing I want to also point out is that in the book of Revelation, again, Jesus is letting you know, he says, uh, who these people will be. I know you're suffering and your poverty, but you are rich. I know the blasphemy of those opposing you. They say they are Jews, but they are not, because their synagogue belongs to Satan. So, right here in the scriptures of the book of Revelation, chapter 2, you're seeing that Jesus is talking to John and he's saying to them, the ones that say they're Jews but are not, but the synagogue of Satan, the devil. So we're now understanding that there is um, a correlation with this star and these religious leaders of that times. And then you have Stephen is saying this before he is stoned. It is letting you know that there is a time that's going to be coming also in the book of Revelation of a future time and now that these people are going to say they are Jews, but they are not. They're going to be a part of the star of the Rephaim, the star of Rephan, which is the synagogue of Satan. And I want to show something else to you and read to you this next. We also understand that going back to Amos, chapter 5, we have to understand that in the Living Bible, it definitely gives us what I find very important, that you're seeing that usurping God's uh Sakuth and the king god, and Kaiwa, the star god, the image of made for yourself. He's where it's talking about that. So right here we have Sakai as a deity mentioned in the Old Testament, particularly in Amos 5:26, associated with idolatry worship of astral bodies, often linked to the god Saturn. Now, when you're seeing this deity, the Saku is referred to in the book of Acts, where the prophet condemns the Israelites for their idolatry practices. You have lifted up Saku, your king, and Kawai, your star god, the idols you have made for yourself. Now, these idolatry, I'm going to see if it'll let me pull up what the image looks like. And that is where we're definitely going to get into the similarities between um, Israel now, Israel now, and Israel that's tied to this pagan image that will let you see immediately, not only the similarities, but you'll also know that this goes back deep, so deep, and it ties to the six-pointed star, which is this image right here. This image right here, I feel like, um, is literally the smoking gun, if you will. Um, and with that, I'm going to show you it being bigger. But you see that this is a 6-pointed star and a 5-pointed star, but it's definitely the 6-pointed star I want you to see. And in the center there, in the center here, you see it is not only what they call the Star of David, but in the center of it as the Star of Moloch. And right here lets you know that they are serving and who they serve. You also have to understand that the Sakuth star is likely um, deals with the upper triangle. You have two triangles. You have the upper triangle, which goes to and ties to Shiva, which is masculine energy, or Purusha, which is the masculine. Then the downward triangle symbolizes Sakti, the feminine power, bacteria. The six-pointed star symbolized in Hindu traditions represents the divine union of the masculine energy and the feminine energy. This sacred symbol is similar and is what is called the Star of David. It's the creation and balance, the upward point triangle, the downward point triangle. You have the origins go back to Hindu, it goes back to the Kabbalah, it goes back to the six-pointed star. And when you're associating this, you recognize that um that it deals with Mother Nature or casual matter. That's the feminine side of it. Yeah, the masculine side. Also, this star is signified and identified as the Jewish star of David, and even some Japanese. So this star has ties that goes to even a Japanese uh, kimono chest, and it's been around for a long time. I don't know. I want to see. I'm going to do this real quick, but I want you to understand. And I have this image where it shows how the two are union together. And so that is how the two bring together the top of the triangle, the bottom of the triangle. Not only that, you're seeing where God is telling us to come out of Babylon. That's something that God says a lot. Um, and this teaching comes out of Babylon teaching. And the symbol has been around for a long, long time. And that's what I look at this and go, so is the Star of David the same star that we see constantly depicted in you know magic symbols? You see it not only in magic symbols, you see that it has ties to the 666. You see that it deals with magic. You see that this even goes all the way back to the Egyptian teaching, the with the infinity symbol, where the forms that came out of Egypt is you had the infinity symbol, and it was part of the Uranus and magic of the cobra in ancient Egypt. What is less known is that the same symbol is found in two depictions. Uranus is either the Mehat, the coiled one, and the Rati, the risen one. Both snake symbols assemble the what we know as the infinity symbol. What goes along with them in the ancient Egyptian text is that it would be a coiled cobra with a symbol of the sun, which would represent a star, and with a bull or calf's head. So the symbol comes all the way from the ancient Rephaim and that ancient Babylonian culture, and so many things that if you are sitting here and you're on the fence, you really need to understand this goes all the way back to Babylon. Goes back to Babylon teaching. It goes back to Satan worship. It goes back to Saturn. It goes back to Moloch. And it is a very evil symbol. And clearly the Bible. And if you're a Christian, you should look at the Bible and say, okay, um, is this is the Bible my end all be all to give me my guidance? And for me, that answer is a clear sounding yes, it does. And so when you have this star, this not the Star of David, the Star of Moloch, and you see that it comes out of Egypt, it comes out of Mesopotamia, and it comes out of Babylon, and it has ties to the Satan worship, the serpent worship, and so many parts of around the world. You see that it has the secret teaching of the ages, the secret meaning of the ages, the coiled serpent, the kundalini, to hooking your chakras. And you know that has ties to the Kabbalah and Kabbalah worship. So when Acts is telling you this, and Stephen is telling you this is who these people are, Amos is telling you who these people are, God Yahweh is telling you who these people are. It is the synagogue of Satan. You are not getting a blessing because you sit here and give Israel all your devotion. You got to be careful and not be wrapped up in idolatry. You got to be careful not to be wrapped up in that you're idolizing the nation Israel. Because if you're putting your faith that you sit there and go by and say, I'm going to allow them unequivocally the right to do whatever they want to do because they're God's chosen people, it's contrary to your Christian beliefs. There's no such thing as Judeo-Christians. There's not. You're either a follower of Jesus Christ or you're not. You're either a follower of Jesus Christ that will lead you to the Father, Yahweh, or you're not. Your blessings do not come from Israel. It does not come from you supporting Israel. Your blessings come from Jesus Christ. That's it. And any preacher, teacher that's telling you otherwise, you need to question that person. You need to ask them, have you ever looked into the star of Rephan that Stephen is letting us know who these people are before he's stoned? What about the prophet Amos? What about Moses? What about this calf and Moloch? These individuals have been around all the way going back to Israel coming out of Egypt. They've been here. And when you start to recognize it, you start to recognize that every time that Israel got into idolatry and became rebellious against Yahweh, had everything to do with the Queen of Heaven. What is that? That has ties to the star. They started sacrificing their children to Moloch, to Baal. Clearly, you can see that this star that's on their flag is not a star that gives honor to the one true God, the Father, Yohevah, and his Son, Jesus Christ. It doesn't. So, no, at the end of the day, Israel today is not the Israelites that came from the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're not. They are a pretenders. They are not the followers. And if you think that they're not going to die in their sin, if you sit there as a Christian and you're not witnessing to your brothers and sisters with love and compassion of Jesus Christ and saying, no, because you're a Jew, that doesn't mean you're going to get out of hell. I don't want you to die in your sin. I don't want you to die with a broken covenant. I want you to come under the new covenant of Jesus Christ. That's the only way you're going to get to the Father is through him. And any church is telling you that, hey, they're God's chosen people, you need to call them out and say, are they? Are they though? Because they're not acting like the children of Yahweh. They're acting like the children of Satan. Just take a look at their motives. And you, as an American citizen, you want to see how they really care about American soldiers? I challenge you to watch and look up and research the USS Liberty. Look it up, research it. Listen for the first-hand accounts of the sailors that were on that vessel and what the nation of Israel did to our young men. I'm telling you, I do think that Israel deserves to be a nation. I do. I believe that it deserves to have its own and be sovereign of its own nation. But I do not believe that America should go blindly into this and us be told, oh, they're God's chosen people. We have to do this. No, you don't. The only thing you have to do is witness to them so that they will know they missed their Messiah. Because I don't know if you know this, but they won't read Isaiah 53 and they won't look at the 70-week prophecy of Daniel. And then you'll start to recognize why that star is on that flag and who they truly serve, because it is not Jesus Christ and the Father, Yoivahe. That's all the time I have. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. I love you. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you on the next one. This will be on YouTube and on Spotify under a plot of confusion. Bye, guys.